All right, we are live for RTD Q&A. Excited to have returning guest, Mr. Maneco64. How you doing, my friend?
I'm well, and you, Mike?
I'm doing excellent, my friend. I'm glad to connect with you. And it's been a couple months since we last talked. And of course, a lot of things has happened. A lot of things has changed on my end as well as yours. And so I thought what better time to connect than right now, based upon the fact of all the silver chatter out here and the disconnect, I believe, between the paper and the physical. So I want to get your thoughts on it, man. And I'm sure the audience is excited as well to ask some questions. So as we move along, I'll definitely have a chance to hopefully get some questions from the viewers your way. But I have a gang of questions myself. And let's start off with, of course, silver. Just within the last couple of weeks, it's become a primary subject matter, well outside of the silver bug community or the silver stacker community. And so it's becoming a mainstream topic. You know, is that by accident? Or is that by accident, or is that something intentional, you think?
I think it's a little bit by accident, and it's to do with the Wall Street Bets event on Reddit.
Yeah.
And I think people started asking the question, if the whole system is rigged, why don't we expose how silver's been rigged as well? And that's starting to seep into the mainstream narrative, I think. I'm not saying that the people on Wall Street Bets and Reddit are behind the silver movement. I don't think they are. Maybe a few people got involved, but I think it's just the idea that everything's rigged that started people looking at silver and also gold, because gold and silver have been rigged for decades. And the reason why they've been rigged and nothing's happened is because it's the central banks, which are basically the people who run the world. Greg Mannarino was on with Alex Jones, Gregory Mannarino, and he said politicians, queens, monarchs, presidents, they're just puppets, and the central banks run everything. So they've been rigging everything, but especially gold and silver. And why is that? Well, because gold and silver are money, and they need to control the price of those things, or else this whole house of cards goes. And
I wonder how much of this disruption now and the exposure of the fraud and corruption in the monetary realm itself how much of this has anything to do with the whole Great Reset agenda that was introduced last year. So say, for example, if we were not in this current situation of dealing with the global health situation, which is the cover up for the transition, we would have never been introduced to the reset at the same time that this current debt-based monetary system is imploding on itself. And so how much of this, I believe it's all synchronized. I believe it's all being instructed by people well beyond the central banks. It's the primary shareholders of all the central banks, those oligarchical families and stuff like that. I believe this is a part of their plan. And I think the Wall Street Bets is literally a cover-up and an excuse to be used to point the blame, to say that they're the ones. Because even so, Janet Yellen talking about the need to now assess the volatility in the markets, and we need to rein in some of this or whatever. So they always need an excuse to intervene, to create more governing regulations and stuff. So
the Great Reset, I think, I'm not sure they're going to succeed in this Great Reset. It's more than just a currency reset or economic. It's more like the whole system, the whole way we live reset. They want to destroy the old economy and bring in, this green AI economy where they meld people into machines. They even talk about that, the World Economic Forum website. They talk how people are going to be connected to machines. They want to change really our souls. And I think that's wrong. And I don't think it is going to catch on. Yes, there might be, it's really hard to know exactly if the traders on Wall Street Bets were really totally behind the short squeeze on GameStop and AMC, and they might not have been. But as I said, Jim Sinclair, years ago, he said towards the end of this system, the sharks would run out of small fish, so they go after each other. So he thinks there's probably also, I saw a headline yesterday that one of the big hedge funds has made a lot of money from So it could be that as well. But as I said earlier, I don't know if we're cut off, but I'll repeat it. It did raise the conscience of people, I think, to see that this game is rigged. Wall Street is rigged. Politics is rigged as well. If you want to get a little bit into that, we know that that's true.
Yeah.
So, and people are waking up to it, and that's why I've told people to stay out of the paper game or Wall Street as much as possible. I know some people have their 401ks, and in the UK, their SIPs, which are the equivalent. And if they get out of that, they pay a lot of penalties and fines. But yeah, just try to stay out of paper as much as possible. Yes, I do have some mining stocks, which is in the game. But yeah, try to get out, have physical gold and silver. And yeah, ETFs and futures are not the way forward, I would say, because you're playing right into their hands.
Yeah, I would agree. And then also, I mentioned a couple of days ago, just trying to process and assess, what's going on from an outside perspective, and always taking a left field approach first, and then bringing it back on home. Just the fact that the hedge funds has become a primary subject matter in reference to the whole Wall Street bets, and that movement being geared towards attacking them and causing them to lose all types of money because of their positions and trying to short everything. But yet I think, like I was talking about, you got the too big to fail banks at the top, and that's why the monetary system even exists, to make sure that they are the keystone of every economy around the world. But then in between, over the last 10 plus years, because of this current monetary debacle we've been experiencing, the hedge funds have profited heavily. And so why not squeeze them out now by basically minimizing all of their, by minimizing that whole industry more likely, and to where it just be the too big to fail banks at the top. And then, of course, we the people at the bottom, in a certain viewpoint, to where I think a part of what's going on is to literally get those players out so that they'll not have as many options and be able to take advantage of the system as they transition. And so
you could be right about the hedge funds, that the banks are trying to squash them. And the hedge funds, though, are like an arm of the banks, I would say, because what I learned from working in the city is that a lot of the hedge funds are started up by traders from banks. They work at a bank for a few years, they do really well, and they see that on their own they could earn a lot more money. So what they do, they leave the bank. The bank actually help them set up the hedge fund. They even fund them. So all the funding is done from the banks, the hedge funds. Of course, there are other investors that put money in there. But yeah, I don't see the banks having any compassion for the hedge funds. They're just like former employees. They couldn't care less if they collapse. They would squash them too. And the other point about Wall Street bets, I think people are starting to realize, because in September of 2019, with the repo crisis, we found out a few months later that it was hedge funds in trouble. People like Citadel, who's involved in this GameStop thing, and also Bridgewater Associates with Ray Dalio hedge fund. They were in trouble, and the Fed came and just bailed the whole repo market out. So people are waking up to this. A lot of the young people, they're denigrated, and people call them millennials. They're in their parents' homes or in the basement, but they're not stupid. I don't think. Maybe there are stupid people in all generations, but they are more probably informed than you and I and other people were at that age, because they got the internet. I only started looking into the system back in 2002, and I was about, I don't know, 37, 38, and here they are in their 20s. So yeah.
And so I think it has a lot to do with the debt trap. The fact that people are literally being squeezed in on all types of positions due to the lockdowns, pretty much getting this thing started by putting the pinch on people's livelihoods, man. Like, if you can't work, you can't sustain yourself, you are out there and you're open and susceptible to, asking these tough questions now, and then that definitely opening up eyes. And so I'm curious to get your thoughts, man. Like, so as we were talking before we went on air about there being a certain target out there of $600 for silver, as that being the, I guess, the true, not true, but just the next target outside of breaking 30, of course. But once it hits $600, game over. What's your thoughts on that? Is that the case, or because it definitely can go well beyond that?
Well, silver, I guess, silver price has been suppressed for, I mean, some people would argue since 1873, where they call it the Great Crime, when they demonetized silver, not only in the U.S. but a lot of European countries. So, yeah, I've looked at silver, and there's a huge teacup that formed since 1980. You had the top at $50, a top in 2011 at $50, and now we're forming like the handle on the right hand side, and usually that's a very bullish signal. And and I've done analysis looking at the bull market in the 70s and extrapolated, and I got prices of around 450, but some people have a lot higher prices. It seems with what we're seeing this week, and with the bullion banks smashing the paper price, it seems impossible for that to happen, but who knows? Stranger things have happened, and I think you said, what kind of world would it be? Well, it's the world we're in already, at least here in Europe, and in the UK. We're basically under lockdown. The debt is going up. People are losing their jobs. People are getting depressed. I work with someone, like every month they send me some numbers and stuff, people I work with, and this lady sent an email, and she said, "Oh, how are you?" And I said, well as can be. I'd like to be able to move more freely outside. And I said, "You know what I mean?" And she replied, and she said, "I've never met her. We just communicate on an email, but she sounds and seems quite cheerful." But she said something quite interesting. She said, "Yeah, it's very strange right now, and it makes you wonder what the point of living is." So, yeah, I don't think it. Yeah, I think we are under the conditions for $600 silver, and the world won't change that much more than we already, in the kind of world that we're in. The other thing I would say, you said, people have debts and they can't work, and the Wall Street bets and all the stock market speculation trading by young people, it's a symptom of the end of the system, because you look back at the hyperinflations in Germany in the 20s, and also in France in the 1790s. People couldn't earn a living doing an honest job. So what were they doing? They were speculating. They're stock trading back then as well. So, I don't think things look good in terms of the system. But in a way, that's a good thing. And because the faster this system implodes, the better. And I think if you've been able to protect yourself and your family financially, and I guess spiritually as well, it's going to be, you can have great opportunities, I think, if you have a little bit of silver and gold, and if you don't have much debt, if you don't have too much exposure to the stock market, because we've seen in the last week or two with Wall Street bets that brokerages can basically freeze your accounts. They can stop you from trading. So do you really want to have all your capital with these people? I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either. Now, so one of the things with silver is that definitely, as far as the nominal price, there's no end in sight as to where it could go, because of the current amount of capital that will be looking for safety into the markets. So gold, silver, of course, the crypto space, which is getting all the attention right now with Bitcoin and stuff like that. And we can touch on that as well if you're interested. But when it comes to the paper price, the silver spot price, whatever they slammed it down to, and the disconnect between actually being able to go out and grab some at your local bullion store or online, Silver Eagles right now probably averaging, $40, $41. So we could probably reach $50 silver at Eagle price, probably next week, give or take the shortage or minimum supply, or people's unwillingness to be able to actually sell those things now. And so, how do you think this is going to continue to play out just this month alone, with the spot price, them controlling it however
Yeah.
you want to, and what you can actually go get your hands on?
Yeah, I'm gonna make a live stream tonight at 8 o'clock about backwardation,
Mhm.
and with Rafi Farber from the End Game Investor. He's on Seeking Alpha.
Mhm.
I've interviewed him a few times in the last few months, and backwardation is basically the futures contracts on COMEX. They have a spot future contract, which is the February one. The price on that is higher than I think May or March, but there's a slight backwardation. What does that mean? It means that the price for buying silver now is higher than the price for delivery in months
Yeah.
from now.
Mhm.
Usually it's the other way around. It's a contango.
Mhm.
So what's happening is that what we think is happening, or what Rafi thinks is happening, is that refiners and bullion dealers that have access to COMEX, they're going in and buying the front month COMEX contract and they want to take delivery at the end of the month of physical silver, so
Mhm.
they can go and sell it at 40 or 50. So can you imagine buying at 26? And that's a huge profit. And he noted that the last time this happened, the last few times that happened, the silver market just went ballistic afterwards. I think it was in March last year when we dropped to like $11. There's backwardation. And also in 2011, just before silver went to $50. And he pointed out the fact that it's now near a top and we've
Mhm.
got backwardation could be explosive for the price. So we're going to have to see. I'm not saying it will be going there,
Yeah.
to 500, 600 in the next few weeks,
Yeah.
but there's definitely something going on. And I think there is a lot more interest from the public. I did a video yesterday because I was on a like a live chat with a coin dealer from Houston
Uh-huh.
and some other people, and they were saying how things have gone crazy, like so many new people coming through the door wanting silver. Uh, if that's because of Wall Street bets, I don't know. But I think it's seeped into social media, all the talk about silver.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And then also, I'm trying to find this tweet here, but last night I saw that First Majestic Silver has decided to freeze, I think, delivery of. Let me see, make sure I get it right. It says First Majestic suspend silver sales, and so I think, and also I did a video last night about the 2021 U.S. Mint is supposed to release 3 unique coin variations, one with this new silver eagle back, and the peace dollar, and the Morgan dollar. And of course, where's the supply going to come from? And so just being able to source blanks, I think, is going to be a big issue. So not only to mention things you just referenced about the futures contracts and people trying to get ahead of the curve, but yet I think there's going to be an actual shortage of just blanks to go around for the U.S. Mint, nevertheless other mints, to try to make supply the demand out there. So that's going to also play into, I imagine, increased prices as well. So the question will be, will you be able to get your hands on something physical beyond this point here as the uncertainty continues? So, and my personal opinion is I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be as easy to source it without paying an extra premium, because the premium might surpass the spot price at some point, to where that becomes a true price of an ounce of silver, which who knows what that might be. So,
yeah, I mean, the law of economics is really simple. If you try to suppress or do price controls like Nixon did in the 70s, you create shortages. And why does that happen? Well, it's because the producers of whatever you control the price of, or the owners, like if you control rents, for example, they won't want to rent because it won't pay. They won't want to rent or sell their products because they won't be able to make a profit. So they pull the supply. They don't produce as much, and it creates shortage. And they've been suppressing silver for so long. And the reason they've gotten away, I think, is because there's still, even though silver's consumed,
Yeah.
there's still a lot of silver above ground, and people with jewelry, they usually they can sell it, and you can recycle as well, like old products that have silver in them. They've been able to do that, but I don't think they'll be able to do it for much longer.
Yeah.
And silver, yeah, that's why the 600, or I heard some people talk about $800, and I think they're talking about 1,000 on the Wall Street bets.
Yeah.
It might sound outlandish, but for a commodity, monetary commodity, an industrial commodity that's been suppressed, the price has been suppressed for so long. Yeah, it could explode. It could explode because of what they've done, and yeah, and that's why. Yeah, that's why you should have some. And even I think some people think it's not a good idea to try to chase right now to pay all the premium, but you never know. What if silver's at $100 next week and you didn't buy it at 40?
Yeah.
So you'd be kicking yourself. Maybe the strategy is, if you have an idea, let's say you got $1,000 that you want to put into silver, maybe buy half right now and wait. If the premiums come down, then you can buy some more. If they don't come down, it keeps going up. Yes, it's not great, but at least you got half your money, and then you get back on.
Yeah. Yeah. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we all know that this is a race to zero in a fiat game. And so the currencies themselves, so no matter what, whether they iron this out or whether they keep their market rigging going and spot price rigging going and all that other stuff going, no matter what, there's still going to be more units of currency brought into existence, and the supply of silver and gold will not increase at the rate at which those fiat notes and digits will be created. So it might take a little bit of a hit now, but at least you'll have something physical in your possession. Unlike, on a paper game, they're gonna be rolling off stimulus checks here for quite some time. And of course, if they paid out people in silver, I'm sure people would want that, but it's going to be in digits in the form of Federal Reserve notes. So,
I don't think if you were in Venezuela this last decade, if you'd been trading gold and silver in their currency, and taking a profit, you'd be completely screwed by now.
Yeah.
You should. The best thing to have done in Venezuela is to have held on to your gold and silver, and I think we're going down the same road, unfortunately.
All right. I actually had a gentleman on from Venezuela who actually fled the country, and so he gave us the whole rundown. This was at the end of last year, and one of the questions that community members asked him through me or whatever was, was it easy to be able to get gold and silver in the way that it was here? And I was like, well, more than likely I knew that. I'm like, no. And so he was like, gold and silver, they don't even consider that, just because it's not something you can go down to your local coin shop and get. But yet he was saying that when it comes to Bitcoin and whatnot like that, that's the biggest thing there, because it's readily accessible via the internet. And so he was saying that the only way you can get gold is to go out in the mines, and it's dangerous because the cartels and drug lords held all of that. And so once again, here in the developed world, we've been very blessed to be able to go down to somewhere and redeem some notes for some actual metals. But then also just talking to a friend in Argentina about the peso. And so, the paper, the official exchange is 87.01, but yet on the streets now it's closer to 200 in the black market. So, the price of silver and gold right now would look mighty good to him if he had the option of being able to acquire it as well. But unfortunately, they don't down there. So we are very blessed to be able to still be able to take physical possession of things at this current point. So,
yeah, in those countries, and I know that because I lived in Brazil in the 80s, and the dollar is almost considered like having gold and silver, and that's probably why gold and silver are not that popular over there. And the thing you said about the black market price in those countries, so I'll explain to viewers what that is. So if you go, let's say, travel to Argentina, and you have $1, and they'll say, if you want to exchange it at a bank, they'll say, I don't know the exchange, so excuse me, I'm going to just say 50 pesos, the bank will say. But if you go to a travel agent or what they call a black market, and why travel agent? Well, because normally under normal conditions, people are traveling and bringing money back and forth. So they almost become like banks. You could get like 80 pesos for your dollar, you see. So what does that say? Well, it says that the bank rate for the peso is manipulated.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like the gold and silver right now in the US and here in the UK, the COMEX or bank rate is manipulated. And you have a real black market price. The retail price is really the real price. The only problem still is that if you call a dealer and you want to sell it, he will most probably bid you the very low price, the COMEX price. And I think if they really want to kill COMEX, they should start bidding up the dealers. They should, because they're selling. I don't know what they're buying at because they're paying a premium as well from the wholesalers and the refiners. They're probably not paying $26. They're probably paying 30, maybe 35, and selling to us at 40 or 45. But if they could maybe lift. If you call them, say, I want to sell a 1 ounce Eagle, if they could lift that a little higher than the spot price, it probably would help.
Yeah.
So,
well, we will see. So, in the days ahead, everything will reveal itself even more so. So, let's get to some questions via those tuning in. And so, if you have any questions or thoughts you want to get answered or just share, feel free to put it in the chat, and we can definitely touch on that for you, because I'm curious to hear what you guys might have to say. And also, I want to just touch on what is getting attention in an increasing manner, which happens to be the Bitcoin space. And so Michael Saylor right now is having a conference as we speak, and they're talking about Bitcoin and the mass adoption and how they're trying to get all the corporations to bring it onto their balance sheets as a reserve. And so they're becoming more publicly open as to how dangerous it is to store your wealth in dollars. And so how do you see this playing out? Because once again, Janet Yellen and Jerome Powell won't sit around and just watch this happen as all those currencies are being flooded into a Bitcoin ledger type of situation. So do you see some severe regulations coming pretty soon, or are this a part of the plan, you think, where they're okay with that?
To be honest, I if they do regulate Bitcoin, and I've heard about the SEC being ready to regulate crypto exchanges, and I think that would be a really bad thing for cryptos, because anything regulated by the SEC or CFTC is like rigged, as we see. But I don't know if they can regulate Bitcoin. They can regulate when you get out of Bitcoin into your national currency, because it has to cross the system. But Bitcoin is basically outside their system. And I don't understand why they want to get the big corporations involved and Wall Street involved in Bitcoin. I know Goldman Sachs has gotten involved already. They own through, I think, I forgot the company, but they own indirectly Poloniex, which is an exchange. I would try to stay away from Wall Street, because Wall Street is the problem. But, unfortunately, it's like a coin dealer or a small bullion dealer getting involved with JP Morgan. Why do they want to do that? That's why I don't want to get involved in cryptocurrencies anymore, because they're selling out to hedge funds, to Wall Street, and I don't trust those people. So there you go.
Fair enough. So we do have a question here from the gentleman. It says, what happens to SLV if spot price explodes to the upside?
I don't care about SLV, to be honest. SLV is probably going to die because it's not real silver. They can increase the supply SLV. They say that they've got silver behind it, but it's silver that is owned by many other people. It's in the LBMA probably. So I wouldn't touch SLV. Ignore SLV. If you want to have silver, you have to buy the real thing.
Yeah.
SLV is a distraction, just like COMEX gold and silver are distractions. COMEX gold, the contract, was created. It started trading on December 31st, 1974.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what happened on January 1st? Gold became legal to be owned again by Americans. So they instituted a futures contract the day before, so they could manipulate the price of gold, because now Americans could own it. Yeah. So that's the other problem about Bitcoin as well. There's Bitcoin ETFs now as well, which is a really bad idea. Yeah. There's Bitcoin futures, which is a really bad idea. Yeah. So, and the other problem I have with the cryptos and the exchanges is that they're becoming just like Wall Street exchanges and brokerages. They're giving people, wherewithal to leverage their trades. And that shouldn't really be the function of Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. It should be sound money. You don't need to leverage yourself and trade those things. Yeah. It's just, greed is, you do need a little bit. I mean, too much greed is not good. We know, even though, what's his name, Wall Street, that movie, he said greed is good, but I think too much of it is not good.
Yeah, I agree. And so here's another question as well. This is from Miles. Miles, it says, do you think this is a 1,000-year global reset as opposed to a 100-year depression or a 10-year cyclical recession?
Probably all together, I guess. Some people think it's like a 400-year cycle. Yeah. They note that the Mayflower arrived in Plymouth Rock in 1620, and the first Thanksgiving was 1621, a year after, and we're in 2021. Some people think it's 400-year cycle. Some people think it's the 80-year fourth turning cycle. I think that's true. It could be the 10-year cycle of normal cycle. Yeah, so you can have small cycles within cycles. 1,000-year, I'm not sure. I mean, 1,000 years ago, what was happening? I guess it was just before William the Conqueror invaded England in 1066,
and that was definitely during the Crusades time span. So that's probably when the Vatican, the Vatican and stuff like that, and all that stuff. So that's probably during that time frame there. Interesting. So here's another question here. We'll take a couple more questions as well, if you don't mind, and just keep it moving. It says, what's Mario's feeling about mining nationalization? Should we watch what happens in certain foreign nations versus the USA? So that's one of my concerns, is the fact that when things really hit the fan and governments decide to nationalize mines, game is over with for all the shareholders in those corporations, because they won't be as profitable when the government takes over. So
yeah, that's always a risk in my investing in the mining companies, and you have to look at the jurisdiction. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and I think mining companies as well should be used more. Mining stocks more as speculation. So let's say we get the move to $500, $600 silver in the next few months. Mm-hmm. Those companies are going to go through the roof. Right. I would be selling them, and then with the profit trying to buy more silver and gold. Yeah. So I wouldn't hold on to them for too long. That's because if silver and gold were to go to the upside like that, it would take a while for them to nationalize the company. So you'd probably be able to get out quickly. Mm-hmm. It's a very cyclical business, I think, the mining stocks. So yeah, I wouldn't really get married to those investments for too long. Mm-hmm. But again, you have to do your homework, see what countries they're in, how the political situation is in those countries. I guess you don't want to buy maybe companies that have mines in Venezuela, for example. Yeah. Or who's to say they might not nationalize companies in the U.S. or Canada?
I'd imagine it's going to be it's going to be orchestrated by all the central banks to do the same thing for all governments. So I don't think there'll be one country that will be freer than the other, because if gold and silver is going to be implemented back into the system somehow, some way, they're going to want all the mines. They're not going to just say we're going to take this and let that go. So a good portion of the Western Hemisphere in this country here is all federal lands. So ain't no telling what they're sitting on, and so of course they're untapped, which means there could be billions upon billions in the ground. Of course, we'll see if that's going to be incorporated. But based upon your current assessment at this current moment, do you still think gold and silver, or gold in particular, is still part of the next monetary system? Probably will probably come from China or Russia or however they orchestrate it. Do you think it's still in play?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think the powers that be, they're going to try to keep the system going, and I don't think it's going to work. And they'll have to bring gold back, at least gold. I'm not sure if they'll bring silver. I'm not saying that I don't think silver is good, but I just think they'll have to use gold if everything fails, because gold is the only thing that's worked. Silver as well, they might use some silver. Silver is the only thing that's gold is the only thing that's worked when things implode. So I don't think they're planning to use gold or silver, but they'll be forced to.
Yeah, interesting. So we'll take this last question here from Mr. Miles. Miles, it says, do either of you invest in historical art, classical literature, or war antiques good investments?
I don't invest. Yeah. I mean, we have some antiques in our house, but antiques are tricky, and I think they're not very liquid, and I don't think they've done well over the years, but it's always something nice to have. One thing that I've been investing in, or putting some of my fiat to work in, is like numismatic coins, and even like I think fine wine is an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Things that are tangible and rare, because commodities are tangible, but they're not rare, like wheat and other stuff. Yeah. But I guess art could be. I mean, if you have a Picasso, but that's really expensive. But it's always something good to have. But you got to remember. You have to be careful with, I think, because it's not a very liquid market, and there's probably a lot of nefarious individuals in that. So if you are thinking of buying antique art and things like that, you need someone to come and look at it before you write a check, because it could be fake. So you got to be careful. But I think it's something that will hold their value for generations. So it's more of a generational thing as well, if you're able to leave it.
Right. I think we're going, like right now especially, we're going to be introduced to a whole nother level of fake goods and services in the form of metals. So I'm sure the silver market is about to be flooded with fakes like never before, because it's going to be profitable. And then arts and all those things like that will also, you can't trust anything, on top of the fact that as things get worse, more than likely, the civilized structure of how you do commerce is going to change as well, to where you may not be able to just go down to your local art store and say, hey, how much would you give me for this? Because they may be out of business, or there's no telling how you'll be able to actually utilize to preserve wealth, because who's going to really know the value of it other than you, in a sense of a chaotic environment that we might end up find ourselves in. So it's going to be kind of sketchy to figure out how to price that stuff, I believe. So another thought here, real estate. Given the fact here in the U.S., when it comes to the real estate game, housing prices going up, and then of course the government's trying to push back the idea of people paying mortgages and the landlords getting shafted. What's your assessment on the real estate market now, and then possibly if things unravel completely, will real estate be a good investment, worthwhile as well?
Well, I look at real estate more as a home, to live, not an investment. And if it does go up in value, good. But if the government is going to get involved, and to the benefit of tenants and not the landlords, that's not going to be good for the real estate market, because it's going to be, who's going to want to buy homes to rent if the landlords, the owners of the house, are going to be screwed by the government. But yeah, I think over the long term, it's a good thing to have homes.
Yeah, you gotta have your shelter over your head. But beyond that, like will you be able to get compensated for those investments from a return on your investment will be the question. Because if the government's subsidizing it by paying people with all the stimulus checks, yeah, I'm gonna leave it alone. I personally don't mess around with it, but we'll see. But Mario, Maneco, man, it's been great having you on the show. Of course, for those that might be new, if you don't know Maneco, you don't know what you're doing. So go definitely Maneco64 on YouTube. Go check him out and subscribe. And definitely, Mario, looking forward to connecting with you more and navigating these waters and staying in tune with what's happening in the UK, because you guys are in a whole different realm of activity from your government over there. So once again, any last thoughts you want to leave us with before we sign off officially?
Well, I just hope that your government over there doesn't move towards the European way of operating things right now, because it looks like the US is fairly open, the economy, and people are doing a lot more. While here in the UK, yeah, for now. What other things? Yeah, just try to get out of the system as much as possible. In terms of the paper money, and and think of investment as more investing in yourself and your family, not as putting money into the stock market.
Yeah, I agree. Understandable. All right, people. Well, once again, it's been great hanging out with you for a midday Q&A. I've missed these, so I'm definitely going to get back on track with doing more of these. But Mario, thank you for blessing me with your time and your knowledge base, and definitely looking forward to doing it again. So you hang on there for a second, Mario. I'm going to sign out to these guys. But other than that, see you guys later for RTD Live Talk later tonight. Be safe. Peace.